as a Franciscan priest, a member of a religious order, I take 3 vows, one of those vows being obedience. So it might surprise you when I say to you, I hate taking orders. But let me give you an example. I was in Connecticut for Christmas. I was driving, and in the passenger side was a woman very dear to me for a very long time, and her initials are M-O-M. And as we're driving, she said, turn right here. Go faster. Oh, don't cut him off. Why did you stop at that stop sign? I said, look, do you want me to pull over and you drive? I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but it always happens to me. I've learned to let her drive. But which one of us likes our lives commandeered by someone else? Not too many. Imagine yourself a famous chef, and the owner of the restaurant says, you can only cook this, and that. And you can only shop at this store or that place. You wouldn't like it too much. Imagine yourself a professor of a private small university in central North Carolina, and the administration says to you as you're preparing your syllabus, you can only teach from this book, or you can only ascribe this book to read. You'd be highly insulted, right? Imagine yourself a student in a private university and somebody tells you what classes to take and what books to read. Oh wait, that is your reality, right? But you get the point. We don't like our lives commandeered. We have in our readings today a very wonderful, each reading thematically joined, very providentially, I think. But in each one of the readings, one of the person's lives are commandeered. But that's the last step. Something else happens first. Let's go to Isaiah. He's in the temple minding his own business. And all of a sudden, a profound experience of the presence of God, and his reaction was, get away from me, I am not worthy. And then his life is commandeered. He becomes one of the greatest prophets of the Old Testament. In the second reading, we know all about St. Paul, the great persecutor of the Christians, minding his own business on the road to Damascus, and all of a sudden knocked down, humbled by the presence of God. His words, I am not worthy to be an apostle. Then his life is commandeered. He becomes the greatest missionary the world has ever known. Simon Peter, probably good at his business. And all of a sudden, Jesus takes over his boat and says, go and drop your nets again for a catch of fish. And a profound experience of the presence of God with all the abundance of fish. He says, get away from me, I'm unworthy. And then his life is commandeered. He becomes the great fisher of men. We're going to get to that in a second. But let's look at the experiences of each of those people. They're doing something very ordinary, and all of a sudden have an experience of the presence of God. They feel unworthy, and their lives are changed. My brothers and sisters, it doesn't matter where we are. In the classroom, in your workplace, in the dorms, on the street, in church, it can happen anywhere that you feel the very awesome presence of God and you feel humbled. And then your life is different because then you have to go and catch men. Now let's explain that. I've always grappled with that expression. It sounds like some female party for Valentine's Day. You go out and catch men. Oh, I hooked one for me. I got myself a man. And even if you make it politically correct, it still doesn't make much sense. The fisher go out and catch men and women. What does that mean? I had to look back to the Greek. That's where I got the true meaning. It means you will make people feel very much alive by what you do. You will bring them the presence of God. My brothers and sisters, we're invited to do that. To go out and have our lives changed by being the presence of God for others. Being so humbled by God to know that we're doing God's work as missionaries of the gospel. It's not enough just to come to church. Put in my time. Check off the list. I'm done for the week. Not true. When we leave, we are the presence of God for people. We have to be aware of that. Be humbled of that. We don't do it of our own volition. We have the grace, the strength, and the power of God to be missionaries of love, forgiveness, compassion, and generosity. You know, this is the last time I'm wearing green for a while. Do you know that Ash Wednesday is just 2 days away, 2.5 days away? It may be too late to start thinking about what we do for Lent, but we each hopefully have given it some thought. I've got to share something with you from one of my favorite periodicals, America Magazine. It's called Give It Up. One paragraph. It might surprise some Catholics, by the way, the 3 hallmarks of the Lenten season: prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, in case you needed to be reminded. It might surprise some Catholics to learn that fasting during Lent is not meant to be undertaken solely for one's spiritual well-being. While self-abnegation can serve as a vivid reminder that our physical bodies should not rule our lives, the early church fathers thought that fasting needed to be connected with something else: almsgiving. St. John Chrysostom wrote that fasting without almsgiving, charity, generosity, was hardly praiseworthy. In fact, it hardly counted as fasting at all. Ironically, he compared it to gluttony and drunkenness, since it smacked of selfishness. For St. Augustine, fasting was avaricious, greed, unless one gave away what was saved by fasting. The practice then needs to be informed by charity, not simply a desire to attain spiritual perfection. Interesting. We may plot and plan as Ash Wednesday approaches what we're going to give up for Lent, or what positive thing we're going to do for the season of Lent that can help to change us. But I say, how about this? How about allowing God to commandeer your life as you prepare for what you're going to do for the season of Lent? For God, not for you. To help change you, not just for 40 days, but forever. Let God commandeer your thinking process. So, yeah, I'm going to give up social media for a while. It may be too difficult to do it for the whole season of Lent, but it's not so hard to give it up for a day. To fast from one meal, not so bad. Maybe to give up one day of eating, and then maybe give what money we've saved back to God. Let God commandeer your Lenten practice, and I guarantee you, you will be humbled